Last time I was talking about the differences between defined benefit and defined contribution or money purchase schemes, DB versus DC, and the way the pendulum of favour has swung from one extreme to the other. Today, in the private sector, DB is seen as increasingly unaffordable, with virtually no new schemes of this type being set up for some years now. Most employers have been opting for a DC approach, group personal pensions, GPPs, which are often funded via salary sacrifice. Until recently, the latest development, as more and more small employers have been obliged to auto-enrol their workers in a pension scheme, is the master trust. For many, it's been their only option, as the insurers have disdained the tiny contributions, ruling out the GPP as uneconomic. These master trusts are multi-employer occupational money purchase schemes. The attraction for an employer, compared to the alternative of setting up their own scheme, is obviously the greater economies of scale in administration and fund management. Employers are happy to cede control over the direction of the scheme in return for much lower cost of pension provision. So employers are pooling, but each member has their own pension pot and has to make what they will of it on retirement, DIY style. They bear most of the risk inherent in the money purchase model, the investment risk, the inflation risk, the longevity risk, and so on. Since employers are no longer willing to volunteer to carry these risks, what alternative to DC is there? Q, shared risk, defined ambition. Now please bear with me, don't sigh, snort or dismiss this as a dead duck, because it very much isn't. Yes, we know it was covered in the 2015 Pension Schemes Act, but never commenced after the Conservative government decided to prioritise the success of auto-enrolment and especially pension freedoms. One form of this shared risk approach, known as collective defined contribution, or CDC, is currently under the spotlight of the House of Commons Work and Pensions Committee. CDC schemes, which exist in several other countries, including the Netherlands and Canada, have an ambition or target to pay a certain level of pension for life. Members don't have individual pots. Rather, their contributions are pooled and their benefits paid from the scheme. Costs and risks are shared in the expectation that this will deliver higher pensions, as much as 1/3 higher, some researchers estimated. What's not to like, you might say? Members get a better deal and it doesn't cost the employer any more than pure DC. That's important too, because it's clear that employers these days generally have no appetite for paying more than they absolutely have to into a pension for their employees. Nonetheless, a combination of vested interests in the status quo and the pensions industry's tendency to herding, plus some poorly informed criticism, has served to deride CDC as a non-starter in the UK. One criticism has been supposed intergenerational unfairness, based on the proposition that if investment performance was poor, younger members would have to pay more to subsidise older members. This is not necessarily so. And in any case, do we hear the same complaints about the cross-subsidies in defined benefit schemes, for example between early leavers and long servers? Rarely. Pretty much everyone in pensions agrees on one thing. If we stay on the present track towards each individual managing their own pot and taking all the risks, with contribution levels as they are, even when auto-enrolment contributions plateau at 8%, most people are heading for a pretty miserable retirement. Either that, or younger generations will indeed be subsidising them via much higher taxes to fund greater state benefits. So I'm pleased the Work and Pensions Committee is inviting evidence on CDC. Who knows? It could even offer a way out for seriously underfunded DB schemes. And before you mutter, Section 67, modification of subsisting rights, isn't it time we stopped kicking that can down the road and have a totally open debate on the alternatives without prejudice? When it comes to pensions, are we really all in favour of do-it-yourself?